Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 21st July. The news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 6. So today we have only 6 news items. For yesterday's news we have discussed 18 news items. So this depends on number of news which comes up in the paper relevant for UPSC. And we have been discussing these news in succession. So we are having a lot of information already on various news items. It's an updation which is generally required. So today there are few news items. So that's good. The first news item is Kovind enters Rashtrapati Bhavan with big win. So this is regarding presidential elections. We've already discussed in detail about everything about presidential elections. Rather, twice I have explained the entire presidential election process. So now the news is that the 14th president of India has been elected, and it is Mr. Nath Kovind, who is from BJP, and he was former governor of Bihar. So we have already discussed all that. He is a Dalit president, the second Dalit president which India would get after late President K.R. Narayanan. And he is the first person from BJP to hold the office of president since independence. So he is won with a major margin. As such, you can see it is 65.6% of the votes which he polled to win and defeated Lok Sabha Speaker, former Lok Sabha Speaker Meera Kumar, who secured 34% of the votes. This is there. You can see the details here too about the number of MPs, MLAs who voted invalid votes, but of course all this is not important. Then the next news item is let's both pull back troops from Doklam, says Sushma Swaraj. So the External Affairs Minister, while speaking in the Rajya Sabha, has given this suggestion that both Indian and Chinese soldiers should withdraw from the Doklam region. So we have seen that this standoff is continuing now for the second month. So here the issue is that it is a disputed territory between China and Bhutan. So China claims that Indian soldiers have been stationed here. The two sides, Indian and Chinese soldiers, are around 100 meters apart as so. We have seen all this in news. So they want the Indian soldiers to withdraw as such, and that would be a precondition for talks, negotiations, discussions. So India is now suggesting within the parliament that both sides should withdraw. India would also withdraw, China would withdraw as well. So this is the statement coming forth. She has also spoken about Panchashil, the Nehruvian principle, which talks of peaceful mutual coexistence. So upholding that, this is a step which is suggested, because India also states that we cannot withdraw because such unilateral altering of border by China, if it is undertaken, then it will be a direct threat to India's security concerns also. As we have discussed earlier, it was very close to the chicken's neck. So this is regarding Panchashil. So here are the details as such. So the Panchashil was part of the agreement which was signed between India and China during the time of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. So it was in 1954 that these 5 guiding principles known as Panchashil were incorporated as the principles for conduct of bilateral relations. So these 5 principles you should know about. One is mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Second is mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, and equality and mutual benefit, and finally peaceful coexistence. So this is what is being asked to be upheld to now. Then the next news item is again a continuation of the privacy issue. The right to privacy case is now being heard by a 9-judge constitutional bench, and it was the second day of discussion which took place, and the details are provided here. The judges have now questioned that when people can give their data, private data, to private entities like Apple. It takes your biometric information when you give your thumbprint to operate your iPad, etc. So you are giving your data to Apple, and that is in public. So if that is okay with 99% of the citizens, they are unconcerned about such sharing of personal data, then what is the problem with sharing such data with the state, with the government? State here means the government. So this is a question which the Supreme Court judge is asking, and the petitioner's advocate here is responding, saying that when to a private entity, when such data is shared, it is through informed consent. And even if you say that 99% are unconcerned, it states that even if one citizen is concerned and wants to protect their data, then that cannot be denied. So if right to privacy is to be upheld, it is a right, then it has to be provided to even that one person. So even if 99% are unconcerned, for 1% too, there should be law in place. So this is being asked for. And also he says that if I'm giving my data to a private entity like Apple. So it is my informed surrender of data, and it is not that privileged player can do anything with my data. If any misuse is done, then I can sue that person for breach of contract, sue that company. So this is the power which I have with private entity. But if data is given mandatorily to a state, then there are no corresponding restrictions and deterrents for the state. So this is what is being asked for, that if there is any data breach, if data goes out into public, that's why the issue of data protection is also linked, which the judiciary yesterday we discussed wanted to separate. Right to privacy and data protection should be separated. So that is a concern amongst the citizens is being highlighted here. So here that is stated. Plus also another point which is stated by another judge is that 80% of the internet is anyway dark web. So what is dark web? We'll see this too. So dark web actually means web which is not in the open. So this is actually the internet, like an iceberg. A part of it is up on the surface, remaining is encrypted. It's not cannot be indexed by conventional search engines. So what search engines search and provide information to you, like what is available on Google, Wikipedia, Bing, this is the 4% of the internet. This is called surface web. Remaining 90% of the internet is deep web. So this is locked. It cannot be openly accessed. So that is government resources, academic information, even medical records which are there online, legal documents, scientific reports, subscription information, etc. So this comprises of 90% of the web. So this is deep web. And the third category is dark web. So dark web actually is which is having a separate interaction. So here you can see this dark web is encrypted network that exists between Tor servers and their clients. So this actually cannot be easily accessed, and plus it is not easily accessible by government also and by search engines as well. So here is where the illegal activities like drug trafficking, pornography, etc. thrives in this dark web. So private communication, etc. is done through this. So this is a Tor encrypted network between Tor and servers and clients. So this is the dark web as such. So this is there, and deep web is the content database that cannot be indexed. That is locked as such. So deep web is not illegal, dark web is. So you should understand that. So of course the statement here is not exactly correct. It's not 80% of the internet dark web, but 80% of the internet is not in, more than 80% is not part of the surface web. So what the petitioners are asking for is some restrictions, regulation on the government. When government will make Aadhaar mandatory for all, means you will have to mandatorily provide your data. Also another statement which the judiciary has put forth is that already more than 90% of the citizens' data has been collected under Aadhaar. So on this also petitioners stated that if there would have had been restrictions on the government, initially, means right to privacy was well defined and elaborated on by the judiciary earlier, then government would not have gone ahead with taking such a risky exercise where there are concerns that right to privacy would be violated. So privacy is taken lightly as such is a point put forth. So such mandatory requirements from the government to hand over data, etc. is a concern raised here. Then the next news item is 50% of HIV infected get treatment now, UN AIDS. So this is a report by UN AIDS which says that globally now more than half of the people living with HIV have access to HIV treatment. So this is an achievement done. The target as such is to have 90-90-90. So this is called 90-90-90 target. So this also we have discussed earlier. This basically means that 90% of the people who are living with HIV, who are HIV positive, should be diagnosed. So first and foremost is they should be diagnosed. If all of them are diagnosed, then they would eventually get treatment. So 90% should be diagnosed. Then 90% of the diagnosed HIV people should be on antiretroviral treatment. So this is the treatment which is required to treat HIV, antiretroviral treatment. Then after that, 90% of those who are on antiretroviral treatment should be virally suppressed. Means the virus should be suppressed to such an extent, to such an undetectable level that there can be no further transmission by them. So this is a 90-90-90 target which is spoken of in context of HIV, and you should know about it. So this is an important term. So now this report actually is saying that the 2015 target which was set of having 15 million people on treatment, on antiretroviral treatment, has been achieved. And now the target is for 2020 of getting 30 million people altogether, means another doubling the amount. So now 30, doubling the number. So 30 million people will be brought on treatment by 2020. That is the target they are working for, the UN AIDS. So this is there. Also it says that globally AIDS related deaths have also halved. So in 2005 there were 1.9 million deaths due to HIV AIDS, and now in 2016 we had only 1 million. So a half reduction has also taken place, 50% reduction. But another point which it raises is that 95% of these deaths which are taking place, and the number figure in 2016, this is in 10 countries, concentrated in 10 countries. So this is a concern, and India is one of these 10 countries. So in India there are 2.1 million people living with HIV, and there are 80,000 new infections annually. So this is also a concern. The reduction in number of new infections is not going down drastically. So this is what needs to be worked on to. So this is there. Then another point which is raised with respect to treatment is the concerns in treatment, that why everybody does not get access to treatment. So these reasons are stated here, you should know. One is insufficient availability and poor affordability of essential medicines. First, they should be available, and second, affordable. Then, so this is a concern in low and middle income countries because of the intersections between intellectual property rights, innovation, and public health. So this interaction has to be focused on. So there are two pulling apart in separate directions. One is IPR rights being upheld and innovation being upheld, and the other side is public health, which should be focused on. So this is there. Another is that there have been market failures in medicine development. So means medicine development which is required for such life-threatening diseases has to be enhanced further. So this is there because market will work only towards those developing research and development of those medicines which will be profitable. So these are called market failures as such. So this is their unmet needs of research and development pricing. These are the concerns highlighted. So even India plays a major role here because the generic pharmaceutical industry in India provides for nearly 90% of antiretroviral medicines in low and middle income countries. So this is a fact of 2015, factual data. So you should know India's prominent role here too for global AIDS treatment. So this is stated, and this is regarding the infections still not reducing drastically. There has been only a 16% reduction in HIV, new HIV infections as such. So this has to come down drastically because 2020 target is to reduce number of new infections to 5 lakh a year. So this has to be achieved as such. And these are the details again provided about people living with HIV. So there are 36.7 million. By 2020, the target is to provide antiretroviral treatment to doubling the 15 million, that is 30 million. So of course, eventually all of them should come under treatment is the target of UN AIDS. So these are the details here provided with respect to India to people. Then this is regarding the 90-90-90 target as such for HIV, which we just discussed. Then the next news item is US ends covert aid to Syrian rebels. So this is a decision which has been taken by Donald Trump administration in USA, that the clandestine, means the secret American program which had been initiated providing arms to Syrian rebel groups to fight against the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad regime, to bring the regime down. This program has now been ended. It was initiated by Barack Obama president around 4 years ago, around 2013 when it was initiated. Now it has been stopped. So it was never publicly announced that such a program has been initiated. Neither has been now it publicly announced that it has been ended. But this is what has come forth. So decision has been taken over a month ago now. So they have slowly stopped providing arms as such. So such programs have been initiated by American administration to bring down, it's called noxious powers which are there, people who are in power in various countries. So it was the most famous of them, in which there eventually resulted in a failure, is the President Kennedy's administration when it tried to bring down Fidel Castro government in Cuba. and it was completely unsuccessful. So this is another failed effort which will go forward now. So this is the decision given. So you should know about Syrian, he's the president of Syria. So it's a Syrian civil war which is going on, is a very complicated scenario. And even President Donald Trump had earlier to stated that this is not a priority. Bringing the Bashar al-Assad regime down is not a priority for his administration. So he had clearly stated that. And Bashar al-Assad is supported by Russia. So it's actually eventually US and Russia fighting proxy wars here. And even Iran supports Bashar al-Assad regime. So even Washington's viewpoint regarding Iran is trying to become a regional power in this region. So this is what is Iran entering in this civil war for. So here is the proxy war as such which is shown. So it's actually between the Syrian government and the Syrian rebels. So actually it was a public protest which was initiated during the time of Arab Spring, when in various countries in West Asia and Middle East, we saw that people were, and even in Africa, Northern African nations, we saw that people were coming on the streets protesting against the government, the leaders who were in power for years and decades. So such public protests took place, and in many countries we saw the government stepping down or the government bringing in reforms. But in Syria, we have seen President Bashar al-Assad being adamant of not stepping down, and the country has resulted into such state of affairs now. So this complete proxy war you can see. So this is the Syrian government side, means Bashar al-Assad, the president's troops. Iran is supporting them. The Hezbollah Shia militia is supporting them. So this is there, and the countries support which they have is of course Russia, Iran and Iraq. And here on the other side is the Syrian rebels. These Syrian rebels you can see are supported by USA, UK, France, all these powers, Turkey and even the Middle Eastern powers, Saudi Arabia, all these allies. So these rebel groups are supported. Now if you are providing arms to rebel groups, then how will they be used cannot be controlled. They may come back on US itself was also a concern as such. So this is there, and the Kurds are another entity involved here. So Kurds, they are friends and foes on both sides actually. The Kurds who actually Turkey clamps down significantly. They demand a separate state called Kurdistan, which comprises of majorly regions from Turkey and also some part of Syria and Iraq also. So this is there. Then the next news item is GST and CBDT to share data. So Goods and Services Tax Network, which we have discussed earlier too, we'll see it once again too. So GSTN and Central Board of Direct Taxes would share data is a statement which the GST network chairman Mr. Naveen Kumar has made. He said that both of course will need each other's data and it would be shared so that tax evasion can also be brought out as such. So here it is also stating that many of the people who are supposed to be registered on GST have registered. Around 86 lakh existing taxpayers, he says, have registered on GST. Of the 86 lakh, 70 lakh have registered on GST so far. So actually tomorrow is the last date, means today is the last date for registration as such. So there may be a case that the date is extended for registration on GST network. And another point which is highlighted is also that new registrations have taken place. Around 8 lakh new registrations have taken place so far. So this is much more than the expectations, because another precursor to GST actually is VAT, value added tax, which was a taxation reform brought in states. So all states had value added tax in place. So now even central and state laws are being merged together and value added tax is brought in the form of GST. So VAT precedence is seen about how would it go ahead. So the GST network chairman also says that it is seen that 50% of the taxpayers file their returns on the last day. So it's only on the last day that they would file, and that also between 4 to 5 p.m. So of course this will bring in a heavy traffic, but he says that this aspect has been kept in mind while designing the system, so glitches would be avoided. So that is an assurance given to. Plus he also states that data need not be uploaded by coming online on GST network all the time. There has also been this Excel sheet which has been provided in Excel sheet format, so the data can be inserted into this, then this sheet can be uploaded onto the portal and the data would be punched in automatically. Also, the GSTN chairman says that small businesses are exempted from GST registration. So those who have an annual turnover of less than 20 lakh in general are exempted from GST registration. So such entities also register on GST. Many such have already been registered, and also in the case of VAT also it has been seen that this has taken place because those vendors who are buying from them, so so they would have to get input tax credit. So this input tax credit can be provided only if these small businesses are registered and their goods details are also there on the GST network. So this is also an expectation that small businesses would also come under the fold of GST network. So this is there. Otherwise, he says that vendors do not buy from such businessmen who are not registered, because then they would not get input tax credit because they have to pay GST. So this is there. And finally, another point which has been put is that many medium, small and micro, small and medium enterprises have been asked by the GST network to upload their invoices every week. And also for larger businesses, it has been said that their invoices should be uploaded every day. So if invoices are uploaded regularly, then there will be not much work needed to be done. So even if then they file their returns on the last day, much of the work is done. So there will be no burden as such on the network. So this is a suggestion also being provided. And this is regarding the GST network, a special purpose vehicle which has been established to create the environment for smooth functioning of GST. So this is the IT infrastructure basically which is provided here, where all stakeholders, the income taxpayers, the central government and state governments interact. So here this is a portal, and this GST network SPV is actually held as a 49% stake of government, and remaining 51% is with various non-government institutions. So this is a not-for-profit, non-government, private limited company established. So the equity structure of GSTN is also shown here, you can see. So central government has 24.5% stake and state government has 24.5% stake. Then other entities which have their stake here, you can see. So this is 51% and 49% with states, with government as such. So this is the equity structure of GST2. So these are the news items for today. Thank you.